Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and on Twitter. I am Bryson Carver, as always. We are presented by The Grid, and we have got an absolutely jam-packed show for you guys tonight. Sorry for the little bit early starting time, 2 hours before usual. If you're on the West Coast, starting at 1 Pacific time as opposed to 3, and out here on the East Coast, it is 4 as opposed to 6. But, you know, some things come on in your personal life. I like to call it work. But listen, it happens. I want to do the show live today. Normally in these situations, I would have recorded it in the morning, set it to air at 6 just to keep the consistency of when you guys normally watch the show. I had to go live today. Whenever I could, I had to do it because of those two games yesterday. I got a lot to say about both. Going to start with the AFC title game, which was an absolute classic, a thriller down to the wire. I'll obviously get to Philly Niners. I'll also discuss Kellen Moore being let go by the Dallas Cowboys as the offensive coordinator and what that says about Dak Prescott. I'll get to that later in the show, as well as the Packers looking to possibly move Aaron Rodgers. In fact, a new report yesterday says more likely than not that's going to be the case, that he has played his last down as a Green Bay Packer. And, who knows, Jets, Titans, a lot of AFC teams, and an AFC that is stacked with great quarterbacks. As we saw yesterday, you're going to need one of the greats. And while Rodgers is declining, he's still better than what most teams have. Certainly the Jets and the Titans are concerned. And I will get to that very controversial ending at the end of that Lakers-Celtics game. Needless to say, a change in replay needs to occur. A change in officiating in the National Basketball Association needs to occur. I will discuss that later in the show, because it was a great game that unfortunately was marred by as bad of a miss call as you could possibly imagine. But there's no other way to start today's show than with the AFC Championship game between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs, who are moving on to their third Super Bowl in 5 years. Of course, Patrick Mahomes has been the quarterback in all 5 of those years, and in all 5 of those years, they have at least gotten to the AFC Championship game, in which they've hosted every single year at iconic Arrowhead Stadium, which has never been done before in the history of the NFL. So Kansas City won 23-20, and when we talk about great athletes, it doesn't matter what sport we're talking about. It doesn't even have to be a team sport. It could be individual sports, tennis, golf, swimming, whatever the case may be. When we talk about the greatest athletes ever, we're talking about Phelps, Serena, Federer, Tiger. We think about the great individual moments. And even in team sports, Michael Jordan, flu game. LeBron James coming back from down 3-1 against the 73-9 Golden State Warriors team to break my heart. We think about Tom Brady winning ring number 5, breaking the tie with Montana for the most Super Bowl rings among starting quarterbacks with a 28-3 comeback at age 39 years old. All of these different things we think about with the greatest athletes. That, my friends, what we saw last night out of that Kansas City quarterback who wears number 15 was one of the greatest performances in the history of the National Football League. Patrick Mahomes, on not just a bum foot, or ankle rather, which he injured last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Need I, mention that Tracy Wolfson reported just minutes before kickoff that is an injury that normally takes at least 3 to 6 weeks to recover from. Mahomes was playing on an AFC Championship game 8 days later against one of the best defenses in the NFL. Certainly the best fourth quarter defense in the NFL, and we all know that's when it all matters most. He did this without his number 1 receiver, Mecole Hardman. He did this with a receiver in a guy in Noah Gray. Okay, how about this? How about this guy, Noah Gray, who has more tackles than catches in the NFL. This is who he's throwing to. He has no run game whatsoever. Kansas City runs the ball 17 times to get a grand total of 42 yards. I'm sorry, they ran the ball 20 times for 42 yards. He is in position against a team that is better than him, or a team that's better than what he's got, against a quarterback that was previously 3-0 against him, and the whole narrative coming this game was, hey, don't look now. Is Joe Burrow better than Patrick Mahomes? A narrative that I laughed off last week. Thought it was preposterous. Thought a guy who already has a Super Bowl ring in 2 appearances, now going on 3, by the way, who has 1 MVP that's about to be 2. It's gonna be official next Thursday night at the NFL Honors. 2 MVPs, now 3 Super Bowl appearances with a Super Bowl ring, and arguably the greatest 5-year stretch to begin a career in the history of the league. Joe Burrow is still clearly the second best quarterback in the NFL. There's not a quarterback on planet Earth, not named Patrick Mahomes II, that I would not take over, that I would take over Joe Burrow. None. He's a remarkable talent. Dude is maybe the most accurate guy in the league. Moves well in the pocket, is calm, poised, cool, collected. But when the Bengals needed him most, and this has been rare in his brief career thus far in the NFL, and even when you go back to college at LSU, this has been rare of Joe Burrow, that when his best was needed, or when his best was required, he did not give his best. Joe Burrow yesterday, against a lesser defense, 270 yards, okay, not bad. A touchdown, but 2 costly interceptions. A QBR of 50, which QBR is 0 to 100, so right in the middle, like the definition of average, and a passer rating that was below average at 70. Patrick Mahomes, on the other hand, throwing to guys who used to play defense on a bum leg against a top 5 defense, completed nearly 70% of his passes, 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, a QBR of 67, a passer rating of 105. With no running game, with no legitimate receiver outside of Travis Kelce to speak of, that, ladies and gentlemen, was greatness on display. I'm no Chiefs fan, although I'm wearing this red Under Armour shirt, so it might appear to be the case. I'm a free agent fan. I'll be picking my team in a month's time, but we'll see what happens with that. But I cannot help but appreciate what I just witnessed last night, what all of America just witnessed last night on national television at Arrowhead Stadium, not Burrowhead. And that sort of shifts me to my next point. I said on Friday's show when I predicted this game, and I went with the Kansas City Chiefs, I said part of it is not necessarily that Kansas City's better, because I still don't think they're better. They have 3 superstars at their position, obviously Mahomes, then you have Travis Kelce, and then you have Chris Jones, who I said on Friday had to have a big game, and he absolutely dominated last night. Had probably the defensive play of the game late in the 4th quarter, sacking Joe Burrow on that 3rd down. He was outstanding. But I said there's a real Warriors-Grizzlies aspect to this. Now, for the record, Cincinnati has accomplished far more than Memphis has. And Kansas City hasn't accomplished as much as Golden State has. But there was a dynamic of team has a championship in its rearview mirror in the last few years. Kansas City did win 3 years ago against the 49ers in the Super Bowl. They have the best quarterback in the league, very well might be the best player in the league, although I think it's a battle between he and Aaron Donald. I still think Donald is a monster. But be that as it may, you got the championship pedigree, you've got the great coach, you've got your key guys, your core guys locked into your team, ready to go each and every Sunday. Facing a team in Cincinnati that, yes, while its resume can stack up against just about everybody, if we're talking about the last 2 years, I don't see the rings. I don't know. Is it just me, or is Joe Burrow flashing a ring that doesn't have LSU on it? I'm just asking a question. Just asking for a friend. And when you had all week long, it started in Buffalo when the Bengals beat the Bills last week. Crushed Buffalo. Looked amazing. It was the most impressive win of the weekend in the divisional round. But you've got a player for Cincinnati, I forgot it was Mike Hilton, somebody for the Bengals, saying, we're going to Burrowhead rather than Arrowhead. Oh, well, that's bulletin board material. You've got Eli Apple doing his Eli Apple thing. He's the Patrick Beverly of the NFL, talking trash when God knows nobody in the NFL, everybody in the NFL is better backing up their trash talk than Eli Apple. Okay, dude is not a good corner. Gets burned every Sunday. You have Joe Burrow walking into the stadium with a T-shirt that says, apologize in advance. You have Joe Mixon, who, by the way, was like no factor yesterday. He had 8 carries for 19 yards and got benched, by the way. Joe Mixon, who's talking about we're the big dogs of the AFC. And Kansas City does not say a word. They said, oh, okay. You want us? You're going to get us. They had 5 sacks. They took the ball away twice. Mahomes, as I mentioned, was otherworldly. And Andy Reid outcoached Zach Taylor. And if I have to hear another Bengals fan talk about, it's the ref's fault. Was it? I mean, I thought if you were the big dogs of the AFC, you wouldn't need assistance from the Zebras. But, I mean, listen, what do I know? What do I know? Most of those calls were go either way. There was not one call where I was like, oh, my God, that's obvious. Well, Bryson, what about when they were holding on the offensive line, when Hendrickson got held and the interior defensive lineman got held, when Patrick Mahomes broke off that one run at the end that got him into field goal range, obviously attack on the late hit out of bounds, which I feel bad for that kid, by the way. He was very emotional after the game. I feel terrible for him because he knows the mistake he made, and it just sucks for him. Well, what about the holding there? Name the times that they call holding in tight playoff games with 15 seconds left. I mean, it's as if Bengals fans forgot that Sky Moore returned a punt 24 yards with 30 seconds left. It's as if Bengals fans forgot that Joe Burrow had the ball in his hands twice in the fourth quarter with a chance to take the lead. What did Joe Burrow do? 6 plays ended in a pick. The next drive, which ended up being his final of the game, 7 plays, punt. Your superstar quarterback, and God knows he is a superstar, which Joe Burrow is, did not make the plays when his team needed them. Kansas City did. Mahomes did. The most talented quarterback we have ever seen in the history of the National Football League did on one freaking leg. Yeah, they can say whatever they want after this game. Who dey? They going home, as Chris Jones said after the game. I'm telling you, one day I'll do a show, maybe this offseason, when there's not a whole lot to talk about in sports, because we all know there's that dead period, like in between the Super Bowl and March Madness. I'll do a segment on my show, like my 5 biggest pet peeves in sports. I can already tell you ahead of time what one of them is going to be. Fans blaming refs after close playoff losses. It drives me nuts. I mean, Kansas City got bad calls. They won the game. Ref didn't cost you, Cincinnati. Your quarterback did. Your quarterback's the reason that you lost the game. And their quarterback is the reason you lost the game, because we are seeing the next all-time pantheon great quarterback. If Mahomes continues to do this, ladies and gentlemen, who's to say he won't be the greatest player ever? Will he need 7 like Tom Brady? I don't think he's going to get 7. I think he'll get 3, maybe 4. I don't think he's going to get 7 like Tom did. But a lot of folks say LeBron James is the greatest ever. And he only has 4 rings to Jordan's 6. And Jordan doesn't even have the most rings. That's Bill Russell. Bill Russell has almost double the rings that Michael Jordan has. There's nuance when it comes to these greatest of all time arguments. Am I saying Mahomes is in it now? No, I am not saying that. He's 5 years in. We got a long way to go. But what he's done in those first 5 years, if he keeps doing this, that's an otherworldly talent we saw on that field yesterday. As I said on this show verbatim, going into the playoffs, it's Mahomes' world. We are all just living in it. And I said last week, there are 2 quarterbacks in the world that can care regardless of what you put around them, that can carry your teams. They both played on the field in Arrowhead Stadium last night. Joe Burrow had a beat-up offensive line. Patrick Mahomes was throwing to accountants on the field. Every other quarterback, you have to put a darn near perfect roster around them to win. Simple as that. I'm about to get into Philly and San Francisco because that's kind of the situation in Philly, with all due respect to Jalen Hurts, by the way, who's playing really well. But every quarter, I don't care who it is, whether it's Lawrence, Allen, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, doesn't matter who it is. Derek Carr, you have to put a perfect roster around them. Matt Stafford last year, perfect roster around him. because no quarterbacks in the world outside of those two that we saw last night at Arrowhead Stadium can carry you regardless of what's around them. And what Mahomes did last night, folks, was one of the greatest things I've ever seen an NFL quarterback do. That was inspiring. It was. I'm not even a Chiefs fan. That was insane. Hats off to the Kansas City Chiefs. They are going to their third Super Bowl in 5 years. Wow. I mean, there's certain athletes, folks, you run out of words for. I mean, if we're talking about, athletes that I've covered on this show since I started back in 2019, LeBron, Brady, Steph. I mean, like there's certain athletes you run out of adjectives. I've heard so many people that have commented on YouTube videos that I've done or, hit me up on social media. Man, you overhype these athletes too much. Not me, just the proverbial you, we hype certain athletes up too much. We don't hype this. It's impossible to overhype Patrick Mahomes. It's impossible. I'm out of words, man. Now, Mahomes and the Chiefs will face the Philadelphia Eagles, who, by the way, as we sit here today, Monday, January 30th, 2023, Philadelphia is a 2-point favorite in the Super Bowl. That feels appropriate to me. I was texting with a buddy of mine after the game. I said I would be shocked, regardless of who wins the AFC Championship game, if Philly isn't favored. I think Philly's the best team in the NFL. I think they've proven that from the jump, from week one all the way to now. They're in the Super Bowl, and that's part of the reason I picked them to win against San Francisco on Sunday, although I did not see that coming. Now, a lot of that had to do with the fact that the 49ers, I'm telling you, man, there's a delicate balance in the NFL. Niners, as I have said a lot this year, have the perfect roster. Like, they're literally good everywhere. Running back, tight end, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, secondary. Heck, they got a great kicker. They got a great coach. The one thing that they don't have an elite guy at is quarterback. Now, Brock Purdy had been playing elite, and who's to say that if he didn't get hurt early in this game, that he wouldn't have certainly given them a better opportunity than they had with Josh Johnson, or at times they had to put Christian McCaffrey in at quarterback for wildcat plays. Do I think the 49ers would have won had Brock Purdy not went down? I have a hard time seeing it. I do. But when you talk about I don't know if I've seen a team in recent years that just bullies you up front on both sides of the ball, offensive and defensive line, quite like the Philadelphia Eagles do. I really haven't. They've got the best offensive line in the league. We've known that for a long time. That's watch the Eagles for a half, and you could say, okay, yeah, their offensive line is separate from everybody else in the NFL. By the way, they have the most rushing touchdowns in a single season, including the playoffs, 39, since the 1962 Green Bay Packers, when half the teams couldn't complete a forward pass. That's how dominant the Eagles are in the run game. With their quarterback, with Miles Sanders, who's a Pro Bowler, with that one kid, what's his name? Barnwell, I think is his name. I hope I'm getting his name right, number 14 for the Eagles. Getting big splash plays down the field to A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith made that incredible catch, which we, of course, saw after the commercial break on Fox. Was not a catch, which hats off to Devontae Smith, having the heads up, having the wherewithal, like, get up, get to the line, and let's get the snap off before the officials can replay it, because if they do, they're going to call it incomplete, which would have given the ball back to San Francisco. Instead, it was 7-0 Philly, which, by the way, another fan base that was blaming the refs, the 49ers. Okay, we'll take a touchdown off the board. You still lost 24-7. But with Philadelphia and with Jalen Hurts, and am I a former Cowboys fan? Yes. Did I officially, I wouldn't say cut ties with Dak Prescott. I'm still a Dak fan. But did I officially sort of distance myself from the Cowboys entirely to officially choose a new team in a month? I did. That doesn't mean I like the Eagles. And that definitely doesn't mean that I like their fans. I cannot stand Eagles fans. They made a fool of themselves last night in the city. But the organization, absent of all the craziness, I don't know if there's not that many teams in the NFL that have better organizational structure than the Eagles do. The Chiefs do. Chiefs have it, which is appropriate that those two teams are in the Super Bowl. I think the Niners do. But you know what I love about the Philadelphia Eagles upper management? I love it. Jeffrey Lurie is one of the better owners in the NFL. He's not high profile. He's not, grandstanding, if you will, doing press conferences. He makes the business decisions. He cuts the checks. And he delegates all the football decision-making to Howie Roseman, who is one of the 2 or 3 best general managers in the whole NFL. What he did this past offseason, which so many teams could learn from. Okay, we've got a quarterback we like. Like Jalen Hurts had a pretty good year last year, right? 2021, he was pretty good. We got to the playoffs with him, but we're like, there's certain things we're not sure about. So what did the Philadelphia Eagles do? We are going to surround him with so much talent on the offensive side of the ball and add to what was already a pretty good defense so that we have no doubts one way or the other whether he is our guy moving forward. It's as I always say, the Bill Parcells rule. Bill Parcells, one of the greatest coaches ever, had the best way of evaluating quarterbacks. Give him 3 years. The first year is a developmental stage. You're transitioning from college to the NFL. It's a speed difference. It's a lot. It can be overwhelming for most guys. Like Brock Purdy's, guys like that are very rare. Year 2, though, you need to see a pretty solid jump from year 1. And if by year 3, you're still not sure if he's the guy, you cut bait and you move on to the next one. It feels like that's what the Eagles' mentality was. Like, okay, got this Devontae Smith kid out of Alabama last year that we really like. We're not sure if he's a number 1 receiver, though. Let's make his job easier, and let's make Jalen Hurts' job easier, obviously. Let's go get A.J. Brown from the Tennessee Titans. Who cares about a first-round pick? He's not going to be able to help us as much as A.J. is right now. Go get A.J. Brown. Defensively, they go get James Bradbury. Reinforce a secondary that already had Darius Slay. They get that Gardner Johnson. Gardner Johnson from CJ Gardner Johnson from the New Orleans Saints to shore up the secondary even more. I admire this team. Or the organizational structure at least. And then Nick Sirianni, who, do I think he's a limited head coach? I really do. I do. We all remember 2 years ago, his opening press conference was a disaster. He was stumbling over words. It looked like he was reading off a darn teleprompter. It was awful. And I was like, okay, this isn't going to work. And to start his first season, it wasn't working at all. They were 3-6. They were really clunky offensively. He wasn't doing a good job calling plays. So what did Nick Sirianni do? He said, okay, I know what I am and what I'm not. I'm going to delegate all of my play calling responsibilities to my OC. And the Eagles haven't looked back since, and Jalen Hurts hasn't looked back since. Now, do I think that shoulder is a cause for concern going into the Super Bowl in 2 weeks? Yes, and it's, these two quarterbacks both are dealing with serious injuries going into the Super Bowl. Mahomes with the ankle, obviously, and Jalen Hurts with his shoulder, who we've seen. He just doesn't look the same that he did before the injury. Like, remember I said during last year offseason, because I was very, very skeptical on Jalen Hurts, and one of the reasons why was I said Jalen Hurts' deep ball, I said it died in the air. Like, it's one of those deep balls. It's not one that's like a Justin Herbert deep ball or a Josh Allen deep ball that beautifully comes out of the air and nosedives into the receiver's arms. No, Jalen Hurts' deep ball comes up in the air and just falls almost. It looks like it's literally falling from the sky as opposed to gliding down into the receiver's arms. You're seeing that now with Jalen Hurts again, which you didn't see before the injury. So the shoulder has a lot to do with it. But you talk about, Jalen Hurts had a QBR of 64, which is solid. The Eagles ran for 148 yards and 4 touchdowns. They know what they are from the top on down. Jeffrey Lurie knows what he's good at and what he's not. Howie Roseman, same thing. Nick Sirianni, same thing. Jalen Hurts, same thing. I respect it. That's play into your strengths. The Eagles, and I hate to say this because I still don't like the Eagles, even though I'm not a Cowboys fan, but the Eagles can teach us all a good lesson. Don't be anything other than what makes you great at whatever you're great at. Don't deviate from that. Sure, change. I mean, listen, we got to evolve as people. We understand that we got to get better. But whatever makes you great, the core principles of that, stick with it. Stick with it. That's what the Eagles did. 49ers will be back. 49ers have maybe the best roster in the NFL. At quarterback, we're not sure. Again, I think a healthy Brock Purdy would have certainly given him a shot. But I don't know. The way this Eagles defense was just flying all over the field, the way that they were able to stop the run with Christian McCaffrey, outside of that one drive, Niners really need to get anything going. Jimmy Garoppolo is definitely not the answer to win a Super Bowl, at least. He's a free agent. We'll see where he ends up. Maybe Vegas, maybe the Jets, who knows? Trey Lance, who you guys know I was head over heels for coming out of a 2021 draft. He can't stay healthy, and when he is it's almost a little bit Tua-ish. When he is on the field, you're like, to have all this talent around him, like he's not like he doesn't blow you away with anything. Josh Johnson, obviously, God bless him. He feels like he's played for every team in the NFL. This is his 15th year, and I think this is like his third or fourth stop in San Francisco alone. He started this year with the Denver Broncos as Russ's backup. Obviously, he's not the answer. Brock Purdy, I love him. I think they should bring him back next year. I mean, listen, do I think he's the guy long term? Yeah. The only thing, and it's what concerns me about Bryce Young coming out of this year's draft, his size worries me. I mean, in today's NFL, how many quarterbacks that are under 6'1" are panning out? How's Russell Wilson doing? Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Drew Brees at the end of his career. Like, there's not that many. It's few and far between. I mean, Mahomes, 6'3", Josh Allen 6'6", Justin Herbert 6'6", Burrows 6'3", Trevor. I think I already mentioned Trevor. Trevor Lawrence is about 6'6". Like, all the best guys are big athletes. So that's the only thing that concerns me about Purdy. Everything else I love. He's mobile. He's fairly accurate. Seems to be really coachable. He's really galvanized that locker room. It's going to be very, very, very interesting to see what the Niners do this offseason. Brady will be available. And this, of course, famously, he was available 3 years ago. And the Niners said, we'll pass. We'll stick with Jimmy Garoppolo. And that's obviously a decision they come to regret significantly. But the only thing about Brady now is obviously he's kind of lost his fastball. Although I still think he's a fringe top 10 quarterback, even at age 46, which he will be next season. And by the way, we don't even know if Tom's playing, so we'll see. But the Niners offense, forget the Niners, Kyle Shanahan's offense. You look at in San Francisco, back to Atlanta, back to Washington, has always been predicated off of quarterback mobility. Even Matt Ryan, who we now look at as like a statue. You look at a lot of those Atlanta plays, when he won MVP, by the way, he was using his legs a lot, getting outside the pocket, making plays. Brock Purdy can do that. Tom really can't. So at quarterback, it's going to be very fascinating to see what the 49ers do moving forward. But as for the Eagles, hats off. They're outstanding. Love their organizational structure. Barry Grant Jr., All Even Podcast. What's up, Barry? He says, now Howie Roseman is good. 3 years ago, fans wanted him gone. They lucked out with Hurts, which made them be able to spend in other places. Miss me with all this Howie Roseman praise. LOL. It's awful. I don't know how you can hate on him, Barry. Again, Jeffrey Lurie knew what he had in this guy. He built a Super Bowl winning team in 2017. He built a team that's gone back to the Super Bowl. I would not say they lucked out with Hurts. I completely disagree with that point because they traded Carson Wentz after the 2020 season. They went out and got Gardner Minshew, and then Hurts beat him out. So, like, okay, we got something here. And they did. It's not like Jalen Hurts was like a 6th-round pick. It's not like he was an accident. He was a 2nd-round pick. There's been a lot of great players come out of the 2nd round. So they take Jalen Hurts. They develop him. Again, developing the talent. Listen, Jalen Hurts is never going to be Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow. He's not. They play to what makes him great. He uses legs. He's improved drastically over the offseason as a passer. I honestly, I cannot disagree more with your Howie Roseman point, Barry. But one point, excuse me, I do agree with Barry. He says, the only thing I like is 2 black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl for the first time ever. That is awesome. We had the first all-black coaches matchup back in Super Bowl 41. Yeah, Super Bowl 41, which I always remember as the Prince Super Bowl when he was playing Purple Rain in the Rain. But you had Tony Dungy for the Colts versus Lovie Smith of the Bears. So this is a remarkable milestone, especially if I'm not mistaken, the first black quarterback played in the NFL exactly 100 years ago in 1923. Now in 2023, we have our first black Super Bowl, quarterback Super Bowl matchup, which is awesome. I just hope that the both of them are healthy. That's the thing. Hurts is a beat-up shoulder. Mahomes is a beat-up ankle. If they're both ready to go, I mean, what I love about this Super Bowl is that you've got two different ways to build a Super Bowl team. With the Chiefs, they've got a really good roster with a generational, otherworldly talented quarterback. For the Eagles, they have a very good quarterback. I'm not going to go to elite yet. I need a couple of years to see elite. I'm not going to crown him elite after just 1 year, but excellent quarterback in Jalen Hurts with an elite roster. Stacked roster versus best quarterback or quarterback that can carry you, which would have been the case even if Cincinnati had won the game last night. Like it's the two ways to build a Super Bowl team, and I love it. It's great. And I think we're in for a good Super Bowl. Like I said, Philadelphia is a 2-point favorite. I think that's a totally fair line. Philadelphia's beaten their playoff opponents 69-14. And, you might say, well, Daniel Jones, they played Daniel Jones and Josh Johnson in the playoffs. Yes, well, Daniel Jones just outdueled Kirk Cousins the week before that, and I don't think Daniel's better than Kirk. And, I mean, we can hate Kirk Cousins all we want, but he's not better than he's definitely better than Daniel Jones. And then you've got Josh Johnson, sure, but that's a Niners defense that the Eagles made look silly. Silly. Niners defense gave Geno Smith problems. They gave Dak Prescott problems. They didn't give Jalen Hurts a single problem. More of that was what the Eagles did than what they didn't do. We're in for a great Super Bowl. No question about it. I can't wait. I can't wait for the build-up. I hope to get a lot of guests. I try to get as many guests on as possible in the couple of weeks leading up to the Super Bowl to get predictions and whatnot. It's gonna be outstanding. Arizona, which by the way, as I keep saying on the show, I've said it all season long, said it in the preseason. That stadium, State Farm Stadium, has had arguably 2 of the 5 best Super Bowls ever. You had that Giants-Patriots Super Bowl where I think the Giants won 17-14, I think, with the Eli Manning game-winning drive, the helmet catch beating the undefeated Patriots as a huge underdog. And then you have the Patriots beating the Seahawks 28-24 on the iconic Malcolm Butler interception, which to me is the greatest Super Bowl of all time. This is, I think we're in for a good one. No, I think we're in for a very, very entertaining Super Bowl. Not to mention Rihanna's doing the halftime show. Like it doesn't get better than this. All right. NBA topic. Only NBA topic of the show because it is definitely a relevant NBA topic. So, Lakers-Celtics, which is historically the best rivalry in NBA history. It's one that spans since like the 40s and the 50s. If we're going back to like Elgin Baylor, obviously you think about guys like Bill Russell. I mean, this is the premier rivalry in the NBA. And they faced last night. They faced about a month ago at the Crypto.com Arena, which the Celtics won. It was crazy. Celtics were up 20, then the Lakers were up 13, then the Celtics came back and tied it in regulation, and they went on to win it in overtime. And they won again in overtime this time around at 125-121. And the play that everybody's talking about, game is tied. What is the score? What's the score at this point? Game is tied 105-105 with 4.1 seconds left. And sorry for the podcast audience, but I'll play the footage. Here you go. So Schroeder's inbounding. Here comes LeBron, wide open, catches the ball, drives to the basket, misses a layup, or so it appeared at least. LeBron is going absolutely ballistic. I thought it was a foul line, but I'm like, okay, let's see this. Like, I've never seen LeBron act this angry at a missed call ever during an NBA game. He is on his knees pissed off at the refs. Here you go. Drives past Brogdon and gets literally hammered by Jason Tatum, which forced him to miss what would have been a point-blank layup. There you go. LeBron's driving slow-mo. Whack. Right below his wrist. which of course forced it was in no way, shape, or form. I mean, Tatum, I think it got credit for the block, if I'm not mistaken. I think Tatum got credit for the block. No, wait, no, okay. On the stat sheet, it just says LeBron James misses driving layup. Yeah, okay. It's hard to make a layup when a guy is literally grabbing your arm. I mean, that is as bad of a call as you could possibly imagine for the Lakers, for LeBron James. And of course, they went on to lose the game. Again, sort of back to the ref thing, which I'll detail a little later in the segment, but not now. The refs aren't the reason the Lakers lost the game. There's plenty of other reasons. One is there's not that good of a basketball team. But this is LeBron James. This is national TV. There you see LeBron is just absolutely, I mean, beside himself about this missed call. You can see why it's as bad as it gets. And the play happened right in front of the ref. It'd be one thing if the ref had a bad angle, which if that were the case, I'd say, well, you need to be in better position to see that play. But, I mean, if that's not a foul driving the basket, I've never seen a foul driving to the basket. And it was so bad that the referee association literally came out on Twitter that night. They didn't wait till the morning. That night and came out and said it was an egregious mistake. We missed that. No ifs, ands, or buts. And this is, there's been so many people that have criticized LeBron over the years. LeBron, when you get the ball with a chance to win the game, why do you shoot like a fadeaway or why do you shoot a three? Why don't you drive to the basket? That's why he doesn't drive to the basket. Because it's amazing to me. And I tweeted this after the game. Or I don't know if it was after the game, but it was definitely after the play happened. It's amazing to me that the two most popular and most iconic players currently playing the NBA, LeBron James and Steph Curry, cannot buy a whistle. But guys like Luka, who's, to me, the third best player in the world. I love Luka Doncic. He's outstanding. You touch Luka, he's going to the free throw line for 2 shots. But you hack LeBron, you be physical with Steph, you can do whatever you want with them. Again, for them to miss this is as inexcusable as any missed call I've ever seen. Like, this is the only sports example I can think of, like off the top of my head, like in recent last 5 years, because there's egregious calls going back decades. But this is probably the worst missed call by an official in any sport since the missed pass interference in the Saints-Rams game. Remember that end of the game, minute and a half left, Drew Brees throws the pass, guy gets absolutely clobbered, gets hit helmet to helmet right as the ball is getting there. Like it's textbook pass interference and unnecessary roughness for that matter. Not late hit, but a helmet to helmet, and there's no flag. Like, again, did the Saints lose because of that play? No, they have plenty of opportunities, as did the Lakers on Saturday night. Here's my solution. So as I always say, we get mad about something happening. What are we gonna do? Fix it. But here's the solution for the NBA. They review possible flagrant fouls, which I have no problem with that. Why can't, in the last 2 minutes of a game, if we can review if the ball goes out of bounds, not if it goes out of bounds, who it goes out of bounds off of, if we can review whether the shot was a 2 or a 3, if the guy's toe was on the line or if his toe was barely behind the line, if we can look at all these different things, or say a guy, if he got it off before the shot clock expired or before the buzzer sounded, we should be able to review fouls. In the last, I'm not talking about 48 minutes because then we review every foul and games would go from 2.5 hours to 3 hours and 15 minutes. That would be bad television. Nobody wants that. But the last 2 minutes of games, we should be able to review fouls. I mean, the NFL, they reviewed, they did that thing where they just reviewed pass interference, which I hated. I'm like, why just review pass interference? Why don't you review roughing the passer? Why don't you review holding? I mean, there's plenty of things you could look at. But if the NFL reviews essentially everything, if baseball reviews whether a guy was safe or not, why can't the NBA review foul calls? Because that's as obvious as it gets. LeBron James has built up too much equity to drive to the basket on the last play of a nationally televised game, Lakers Celtics, get hacked on the arm and get no call. It's egregious for anybody. I mean, it'd be egregious for, Nate Robinson, if Nate Robinson was still playing in the NBA. But for LeBron James, it's unacceptable. This is as bad as it gets. And then you have Patrick Beverley, which this is hilarious. I don't have the video of this, but I'm sure you guys saw it. Patrick Beverley, 30 seconds to a minute after the clock expires, in between commercial breaks, or during the commercial break going to overtime, Patrick Beverley walks over to the official with a camera in his hands. I guess he, one of the social media managers lent it to him. I don't know. Goes up to him, and he's showing him the video. And the refs seem pretty irritated by that. Listen, was that a technical foul? It was a technical foul. But I see I love what Patrick Beverley did. And I'm not a Patrick Beverley fan at all, but I loved it. It's like, dude, how do you miss this? If nothing else, blow a late whistle. LeBron James, listen, people complain, LeBron complains about too many calls. Luka complains, which I would say Magic complained about calls back in the day. Like, guys, star players complain about calls. It's just part of the territory of being an NBA official. But if nothing else, LeBron reacted immediately. Let me pull up the tape again, okay? Here you go. Here's the play once again. So LeBron catches the inbound off a bounce pass, drives to the basket. Immediately, as soon as his feet hit the floor, is going crazy about that miss. How many late whistles do we see all the time in the NBA? We see a guy gets, goes for a layup, he misses it, a team grabs the rebound, gets out in transition, then the whistle's blown. We don't love it, but if we go back and replay, okay, that was the right call. They waited too long to blow the whistle, but at least they got the call right. That had to happen on Saturday night. As soon as LeBron went in the air, as soon as his toes touched the basketball court, he was going nuts, holding his arm, saying he got whacked. Like, as soon as LeBron hits the floor, okay, I'm blowing the whistle there. Because LeBron does not react that way after missed calls ever. That you knew it was bad. When I thought watching live it was a foul. But when I saw LeBron react the way he did, I'm like, okay, there's no way he didn't get absolutely hammered. And he did. It's as egregious a missed calls I've ever seen in a basketball game. It's unacceptable. So NBA, they won't do it during the season because they're not going to make a rule change in the middle of the season, which is fine. But this offseason, last 2 minutes of games, you should be able to review fouls. You should. If it's in question, you should be able to go to the monitor. And again, I've always been one to complain that reviews take too long. Yeah, I remember there was a game in the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago, Clippers-Suns. It was game 2, I think, and the last 3 minutes of the game took 45 minutes because there were so many reviews, and the reviews took forever, and they reviewed every single play. It's like, okay, did it go out of bounds or not? If it's inconclusive, stick with the original call. Now, that was definitely not going to be inconclusive. As soon as the refs went to the monitor, they were going to see Jason Tatum wax LeBron James' left arm, 2 free throws for LeBron. That's got to be a change that makes. Now, is it the reason the Lakers lost the game? No, the Lakers' late game execution was terrible, per usual, which has been all season long. They're up 3. They fouled Jaylen Brown on a layup. It's well understood. If you're in the last 10 seconds of a game, you're up 3. If your opponent goes for the quick layup, back off. Give him the layup. It can't hurt you. You're still up by 1. You can call timeout and advance the ball. You can, again, get it in bounds, make 2 free throws. Now they still have to, they're back to square one with less time. Bad situational execution. Westbrook was awful with the turnovers in overtime. LeBron set up shooters plenty of times in position to make shots. They couldn't make them. I mean, there's plenty of reasons the Lakers lost. It wasn't just that missed call. But that said, I don't know if LeBron's still the face of the NBA, but he's still darn close. I don't think he's the best player in the NBA anymore. I think that belongs to his longtime contemporary Steph Curry, shortly followed by Giannis, Luka, then LeBron. But he's built up too much cachet to not get that call. I'd be pissed if an average player who averaged 5 points a game didn't get that call. I'm not somebody who criticizes refs much because my thing is like missed calls are going to be baked into the game. Just like missed shots, missed assignments, bad throws in the NFL, missing a block. Like refs are human just like players are humans. With that said, that's just a mistake. That's a mistake that is absolutely unacceptable. You cannot make as an NBA official. You can't. No other way around it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward with the with the NBA as it pertains to reviewing fouls. I hope they do. And not just reviewing shooting. Don't just review to shooting fouls. You can review flagrants. I have no issue with that. And something else too. Last thing before I move on. Of the three, I'm not a hockey fan. I may get into hockey one day. I've tried so hard. I've tried around like 2019 to get into hockey. I just couldn't do it. Maybe I will one day though, because I hear that the fan experience is as good as there is in sports. So I'd love to experience that. But of the three major American leagues that I watch, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NBA has the worst officials by far. To me, the NFL is the best, baseball second, and I mean, really the only thing the NFL struggles with is roughing the passer. If they clean up roughing the passer this offseason, then they're fine. Like they're really good at what they do. Same thing with Major League Baseball. NBA, they're still good. But calls like Saturday night, and the thing that makes me want to, oh my gosh, it drives me crazy. How easy it is for you to get a technical foul nowadays. You could say one colorful word. You know that magic word, what it is. And they give you a technical. They're not directing it necessarily at the official. Heck, I've seen guys get thrown out of games for yelling at teammates, for getting mad with teammates. See Steph Curry last week. He wasn't mad at the ref, but the ref threw him out of the game. Draymond Green was mad at James Wiseman a couple years ago. Got thrown out of the game. I mean, you do that to the ref. If you roll your eyes at a ref, they give you a technical foul. It's like, to me, you should have to earn a technical foul. Technical fouls should be like, okay, that's just uncalled for. You can't do that. Like if you're getting in the ref's face and you're cussing them out, or if you make contact with the ref. I remember JJ Redick got thrown out of a game a couple of years ago for bouncing the ball too hard towards a ref. Like really, that's worth a guy getting tossed out of a game. That bothers me more than anything. How quick the refs. It's as if like they have a chip on their shoulder. Like get over it. It drives me nuts when they just, especially star players too. To me, a star player, especially, whether you like it or not. I mean, listen, we go to American Airlines Arena to watch Luka Doncic. We go to Chase Center to see Steph Curry. We go to Crypto.com to see LeBron James. We go to the road arenas. We go to road arenas to see the star NBA players. It should take more for them to get a technical foul than it does a role player. I'm sorry, it should. They're the reason we tune into these games. I mean, you want to watch the Milwaukee Bucks without Giannis? Are you paying League Pass to go to watch the Bucks on TV or on your phone or wherever? If Giannis isn't there, I think the refs should take that into account. Back to the NFL. I'm telling you, I cannot avoid the Cowboys. I can't. Like it's just they're always. And that, you know what? That's what Jerry Jones loves. He loves this team being in the news.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
How about them Cowboys who just fired Kellen Moore, their offensive coordinator, yesterday? Or, as the statement goes, mutually agreed to part ways. Which I don't know. If I ever got fired, I wouldn't agree. Yeah, you know what? I should be fired. You're right. I love. Maybe I'll add that to my pet peeves list. Mutually agreed to part ways, which that doesn't just apply to sports, obviously. But I don't know. I just get a kick out of it every time I see that. But anyways, Kellen Moore mutually agreed to part ways with the Dallas Cowboys as their offensive coordinator. And reports out of Dallas are that now Mike McCarthy will call offensive plays. Now they'll still hire an offensive coordinator. Here's what it says to me. And Kellen Moore, by the way, literally less than 24 hours after getting let go by the Cowboys, just took the job to be the LA Chargers offensive coordinator with Justin Herbert. So we'll see what happens there. Here's what we're going to find out. Is what Jerry Jones is, or not what Jerry Jones is doing, what Mike McCarthy is doing, because Mike McCarthy is the one who made the decision. Which I'm shocked that Jerry allowed him to do so. But what Mike McCarthy is essentially saying, it's on you, Dak. It's on you. Like, Dak was obviously an up and down season. And you know what? Again, I think the playoffs were a perfect representation of how Dak was out of this world against Tampa Bay and terrible against the 49ers. That's kind of how Dak's season was. Now, the notion that that's who Dak is, I think the numbers would prove quite otherwise. But be that as it may, we can do that another day in another show. But this feels like the Cowboys as a whole saying, okay, we don't love Kellen Moore's play calling. For one, I mean, watching the Cowboys offensive film makes me want to run my head through a wall because how many times have I said on this show, why does Kellen Moore love curl routes? Like, when in doubt, 3rd down and 10, he loves those 7-8 yard curl routes with Michael Gallup and Dalton Schultz. He loves them. I don't get it. It takes absolutely no creativity. Guys don't get open half the time, but he's married to it. Here's the thing, and here's what I'd like to see from the Dallas Cowboys. I said I would have liked to see them do it last offseason. They didn't. But this offseason, DeAndre Hopkins is available for a trade from the Arizona Cardinals. Not only that, this is an NFL draft that is rich with wide receivers. And the receiver, I think, would be absolutely perfect. I mean, perfect for what Dallas needs. And you can call me biased. That's fine. Jalen Hyatt from my Tennessee Volunteers can beat you on the outside and is deadly in the slot. Great route runner. Perfect. Jalen Hyatt today is better than Noah Brown. Absolutely. And he'll probably be a mid to late first-round pick, at least from what I'm hearing from scouts. I'm looking at some of these mock drafts. I don't know. I'll probably have to get Mike Guido on the show sometime, see what he thinks about Jalen Hyatt. But he's perfect. You trade for DeAndre Hopkins. You go get Jalen Hyatt. All of a sudden, Hopkins, Lamb, Hyatt. Now the pressure's on Dak. It's like, okay, we let go of your offensive coordinator. You've got a stacked receiving core. Let's see what you got. By the way, the offensive line, which was awful through the first two-thirds of the season, looked pretty good the last 6 games-ish, 5-6 games. Looked good. Looked really good in the playoffs. Go get DeAndre. Go draft Jalen. And if Dak still can't get it done, now listen, if the expectations to win a Super Bowl, that ain't going to happen. You sign Tom Brady, you go get Aaron Rodgers, you ain't winning no Super Bowl. It's the Cowboys. They're going to find some way to screw it up. If the offense plays well, the defense is going to screw up and vice versa, just like against the 49ers. Defense was amazing. Offense was terrible. You know, they've had plenty of playoff games. Think about that game against the Packers years ago. Offense was amazing. Defense was terrible. They don't play complimentary football. They have it for the last 28 years. But they're putting the pressure on McCarthy, Dak Prescott. I don't have an issue with it. I don't. Kellen Moore's out of the way. McCarthy was known as one of the best play callers in the NFL back when he was the head coach in Green Bay. Well, see if he still has his fastball. Dak Prescott, first 6 years of his career. Well, take out year 2. Year 2, I didn't think Dak played very. I think year 2 is the worst year of Dak's career. But year 1 and then 3 through 6, he's great. He was one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL. Last year, the turnovers became a problem. Pocket awareness became a problem. Why is it that Dak, these issues weren't a problem going into year 7? I'm sorry, these weren't an issue 6 years in, but they're now a problem in year 7 as a veteran quarterback. Well, some of it's fundamentals. By the way, an underreported move, the Cowboys, what they do? They let go of Doug Nussmeier, their quarterback's coach. So they're bringing a new guy, work with Dak. And again, I think that's part of the reason they let go of Kellen Moore. There's almost a buddy-buddy dynamic between Dak and Kellen Moore. I mean, they're not that far apart in age. They were teammates for a couple of years. I wonder if they took that into account. Again, I've never been a Kellen Moore guy. I think he's totally uncreative. If that's even a word, uncreative. When it comes to play calling, I think it's terrible. I think we compare it to the likes of Kyle Shanahan. It's not even close. But my thing is for the Cowboys, if you are going to put the pressure on Dak, if you're going to stack up the receiving core, if you're going to give play calling dues to Mike McCarthy, you're not going to hear any complaints from me. My issue with Dallas last year was, and the report came out, Todd Archer came out before the season, the Cowboys front office wants to see if Dak can carry them. And I said, that's ridiculous. Because as we saw, there are 2 quarterbacks in the whole NFL that can carry you. And they played in Arrowhead Stadium last night. One can carry literally anybody. His name's Patrick Mahomes. Dak is obviously not even nowhere near Patrick Mahomes. He's nowhere near Joe Burrow. But we've seen Joe Flacco win a Super Bowl. We've seen Nick Foles win a Super Bowl. Heck, we saw Matthew Stafford get to Super Bowl. You see a big gap between Dak and Stafford? I don't. I mean, Stafford had one of the best rosters, if not the best roster in the NFL last year. Jimmy G's gotten to a Super Bowl. If you put the loaded roster on Dak and he does not improve, because they're not getting the Super Bowl, forget about that. It's the Cowboys. If he does not show an improvement from last year, which just concluded 2022 season to the 2023 season, then I agree you should cut bait. Then I agree, okay, maybe he's not the guy that I thought he was. But last year, dude had CeeDee Lamb, and that was it. Need I remind you, the Dallas Cowboys were 30th, 31st, last in separation. For the record, I think Kellen Moore had something to do with that. He never put the receivers in position to separate. Some of that's they can't separate. Michael Gallup's coming off a leg injury. Noah Brown is a 5. He's not a 3. He's a 5. They used him as a blocking receiver up until this year. There's a reason for that. There's a reason he couldn't beat Cedric Wilson because Cedric Wilson was better. Cole Beasley was better. Okay? But put the talent around Dak, and he still doesn't come through, you got me. You got me. I got nothing else to say. But I don't have an issue with this move. I kind of feel bad for Justin Herbert that they got what's his name? Kellen Moore, but we'll see. John Rivera, that's your cousin, LOL. Come on, man. Not all white people look like John Rivera. Come on, man. Come on, man. Listen, I'll say this. Grady makes a good point. Grady's not in the comments today, but shout out to him. We were talking a lot over the weekend. I don't see the resemblance between myself and Brock Purdy that much. I really don't. I do see the resemblance. That's why I call Cooper Kupp twin. I do see the resemblance between myself and Cooper Kupp. I really do. Come on, John. He says, you don't have to worry about it anymore, LOL. You're not a Dallas fan. That's the beauty of it. I'm chilling. I don't have to worry about this crap anymore. It is, you guys don't know. And this is why I respect Cowboys fans. Like I mean this so much. I have so much respect for Cowboys fans for having to put up with this year after year. God bless y'all. I hope y'all get a Super Bowl one day. I really do. It's great. So, but it is such a relief to not have to put my hopes and dreams into that organization anymore. I'm telling you, it's added years to my life. It's like, it's been great. Yeah, my dad just texted me. He liked what I had to say about Jalen Hyatt. Because obviously my dad is a lifelong Tennessee fan, as am I. By the way, can I just mention the University of Tennessee men's basketball team is number 2 in the AP poll after taking care of the 10th ranked Texas Longhorns in dominant fashion. I'm just saying, man, I got a natty in my sights. I at least got a Final Four in my sights. Listen, if my Vols don't get to the Final Four, it's a failed season. I'm just putting that out there right now. If we don't get to the Final Four, it's a failed season. Great veteran talent, great young talent. Love my Vols this year going into March. Love them. Just got to stay healthy. My man Zakai Ziegler, Josiah Jordan-James, and Kamwa. Love those guys. They're doing a phenomenal job this year. Key is a great shooter. You're going to be hearing a lot of these names later down the road once we get to March Madness because my Tennessee Vols are absolutely legit. All right, moving on to our final topic of the day. It revolves around a team that Mike McCarthy used to coach. That would be the Green Bay Packers, who, according to Adam Schefter, are more likely than not to move on from Aaron Rodgers. And at this point, I'm not sure they have a choice. I think they kind of have to. Now, the Packers blew their opportunity to definitively determine who they should move on from. Because when they were 4-8, and I said on the show the next day when they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, I said it's a great day to be a Packer. Because now you know what you got to do. Now you have an organizational direction. Aaron Rodgers is hurt. He's 38 years old, I think. 38, 39 years old. He's had a rough year. See what you got out of Jordan Love. It is, again, back to the Bill Parcells rule. It's year 3. If you're not sure he's the guy, then you trade Love. There's plenty of teams that would like to take Jordan Love and take a chance on him. Just like there's going to be plenty of teams willing to take a chance on Trey Lance when the Niners trade him this offseason. assuming they do. But now you're not sure. But if you trade Rodgers, now you free up a ton of salary cap space. You hand the team to Jordan Love. You say, okay, it's your team, man. It's your franchise. You've got Christian Watson, who really emerged this season, had a rough first half and an excellent second half. You've got guys, I think Tunyon's a solid tight end. I think they can upgrade in that position, but he's solid. He's fine. He's like in that Dalton Schultz category. Actually, no, I think Hayden Hurst is better than Tunyon, much better. But solid tight end, better blocker than he is a pass catcher. Speaking of running, you've got a great offensive line, and you got as good of a two-man backfield as there is in A.J. Dillon and in Aaron Jones. One's the guy is higher paid, Aaron Jones. The other guy, A.J. Dillon, still in his rookie deal. Take advantage of that. You could go get a receiver in the draft. You could go maybe trade for a guy again. DeAndre Hopkins is available, although the Packers are not a team known for making big trades in free agency, or during the offseason, rather. But now you free up cap space. You build a team around Jordan Love. You see what you have. I think they need to move on from Matt LaFleur. They're not going to do that. I think his play calling leaves much to be desired. His game planning in particular leaves much to be desired. But now the Packers have a direction. Now, as far as teams that Aaron could go to, I mean, Jets have been the most talked about team. We've talked about the Jets for a long time now. Like, hey, the Jets gotta. I mean, you saw Quinnen Williams, great defensive tackle for the Jets. I saw him tweet after the game, or during the NFC Championship game, when the Niners were just going through a quarterback carousel with Brock Purdy, then Josh Johnson, then Christian McCaffrey, then Brock Purdy with a jello arm because he was injured. He had a big thing of ice on it on the sideline. He literally could not throw the ball. Quinnen Williams takes a shot at Zach Wilson on Twitter. Huge shot. He tweets, "Now Bosa sees what I'm talking about, having to play without a quarterback." Which is like, boy, that's a shot at Zach Wilson, but they're moving on from Zach Wilson, so it doesn't matter. But you add Aaron Rodgers to a team that's got Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, a good offensive line, probably upgrade in the draft or free agency. Maybe go get a guy to shore that up, particularly left tackle. Who's that other guy they have? Blanket. Is it Elijah Moore? I think is I don't know. I'm forgetting the other receiver's name for the Jets. That's really good. And then obviously you got a stacked defense. Quinnen Williams, his brother who plays linebacker. You've got Sauce Gardner, who might already be the best corner in the NFL after his rookie year. Again, he should be this year what Micah Parsons was last year, unanimous defense rookie of the year. It's not even close. With all due respect to Aiden Hutchinson and whoever else was nominated, it's not even close. Sauce Gardner's the rookie of the year by a mile, unanimously in my opinion. So, again, we'll see next Thursday during the NFL honors. The Jets are a possibility. Tennessee makes sense. Pair him with Mike Vrabel. Although I'm curious to see how that dynamic would work. We know Aaron Rodgers can be a bit difficult. That doesn't seem like the type of personality that Mike Vrabel would love. Aaron Rodgers, again, you give him the running game with Derrick Henry. I think the kid's really talented. Treylon Burks, the guy who they traded A.J. Brown to the Eagles, which was a boneheaded decision. But they take Treylon Burks out of Arkansas. I love Treylon Burks at Arkansas. But he struggled to stay healthy, and the poor kid had Ryan Tannehill, Malik Willis, and Josh Dobbs. Aaron Rodgers may be declining. He's better than all those guys put together. So you pair him with Aaron Rodgers. You probably go get a receiver in the draft once again. Maybe you go get one in free agency. You've got a good defense that's going to get a lot of guys back healthy. And the thing about the Titans this year, they were 7-2, 7-3, something like that, and fell apart physically. Fell apart. Now, credit to the Jaguars for taking advantage of winning the division, and I think they're going to be winning that division for many years to come. But Tennessee's still a very well functioning and well-run franchise. So that could work. Again, the reports are saying that the Packers won't trade Aaron to an NFC team. They want to get him out of the conference, not have to face him, but every 4 years, which that may not even be the case, depending on where he goes, depending on how the schedule plays out. I don't know. I've heard Pittsburgh floated. We know Tomlin and Rodgers had that public flirting there on the sideline where Tomlin called a timeout because Aaron was about to get 12 players on the field for Pittsburgh, and they kind of wink at each other and grin real big. So you have that dynamic. Maybe that could work, although I think it would stunt the growth of Kenny Pickett, who I like. Who else? I'm thinking other AFC teams. use a quarterback. I mean, New England could use a quarterback, but that would be a disaster between Belichick and Rodgers. Thinking of other AFC teams. Let's see. I think about the AFC West. Yeah, Raiders is maybe a possibility, but I think they're more intent on getting Tom Brady. Maybe even Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think they want to have to give up assets. I think they want to go get a free agent as opposed to having to give up stuff for Aaron Rodgers. So I think they're out of the mix. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of teams you can float out there. Trying the AFC North. Yeah, I mean, Baltimore's probably out of the picture, even if they do move on from Lamar. I don't know. I mean, there feels like 2, 3, 4 teams max that feels like they're in the running to go get Aaron Rodgers. We just got an update from Adam Schefter. This is tough. Adam Schefter just tweeted, Brock Purdy suffered a torn UCL that will sideline him for 6 months, per source. So 6 months from now, that's right around the time training camp starts. So obviously, first of all, prayers to Brock Purdy. Wish him the very best. I'm assume he'll have to go through some sort of surgery to fix that. But definitely prayers to Brock Purdy for a speedy recovery. Didn't mean for that to rhyme, by the way. But it's going to be, again, that quarterback dynamic's very interesting in San Francisco. Because I really like Brock Purdy. I call him Sturdy Purdy ever since he took over. I invented that name. The only thing that worries about me is what happened yesterday, which is he's not a big guy, and a hit that would injure him wouldn't injure a lot of quarterbacks that are bigger than him. And that's why you see, again, that's why these quarterbacks, the Levises and the Strouds, are so highly touted. They're big, strong athletes. They can take the hits. Guys, that's why I worry about Bryce. And I love Bryce Young. He's got everything. I just worry about whether he can take that type of punishment. And Schefter just tweeted, Purdy is seeking second medical opinions about whether he needs surgery per source. 49ers are recommending surgery, but no decisions yet. So we'll see. Again, wishing the very, very best on recovery, on getting that UCL repaired. But it's going to be a fascinating offseason for the 49ers because that roster is so good. It's so good. They just need a quarterback. They get a quarterback, they're set. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Again, earlier show than usual. I got to get to work. But appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving It Up Live on Thursday. This one will be at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific time. Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter. And be sure to like, share, comment. Take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big subscribe button right there. Helps the channel grow exponentially. And be sure to go subscribe over. Hold on. Let me get the graphic here. Go subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, which is a new network that I'm a part of. I'm actually wearing the Grid hat today, which is available on a website. You see it see the Carving It Up merch, Grid merch, and shows from our other podcasts on the Grid Network. Barry Grant Jr., All Even Podcast. You've got Ryan Flowers, Clutch Sports Talk. Patrick Brown, the Chaotic Sports Podcast. Alfred Parsard Jr., the Rocket Fuel Jets Podcast. He's got some great content out recently. And the Cowboys Can Fan Podcast, which they have a great time. I love those guys out in Canada. So check out the Grid. Subscribe to the Grid on YouTube. And that is where you can listen to my show and the other podcasts of these incredible creators, incredible guys out there on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Have a great week, everybody. See you on Thursday. Please continue to stay safe out there. Please be sure to take care of your physical and your mental health. God bless you all. Peace out. Blame the refs, please. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.